Okay, so we're on workbook page 526. Today we're going to learn about inverse operations. So inverse operations are just operations that undo each other. For example, the opposite of addition is subtraction, and the opposite of multiplication is division, because addition and subtraction undo each other and multiplication and division undo each other. Now we're going to go to the bottom of this page and we're going to solve some equations using inverse operations. So equations are balanced on both sides of the equal sign. So we have the left side and the right side. So if I want to solve for the variable c, I want to get it by itself so I know what c equals. So I want to move this 2 to the other side. But to keep this equation balanced, I need to do inverse operations to get rid of the 2 on this side and bring it to this side. So to do inverse operations, the inverse of adding 2 is to subtract 2. But whatever I do on one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other to keep it balanced. So plus 2 minus 2 equals 0 and cancels out, which is what we wanted. We wanted to undo that. So now on the left side, all we're left with is c. I'm going to bring down my equal sign, and now 5 minus 2 equals 3. So c equals 3 because if we plugged in 3 here, 3 plus 2 equals 5. Let's do another one and practice using inverse operations. So I like to separate my two sides of my equation. So I want to solve for x, so I want to get it by itself. So I want to undo this adding 5. So to undo that, I would subtract 5. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other to keep my equation balanced. These cancel out, and now all I'm left with on this side is x. I'm going to bring down my equal sign. 6 minus 5 is 1, so we're left with x equals 1. Let's do letter C. Split up your equation, the two sides. So I want to solve for y, so I want to undo this plus 3.5. So to undo that, I would subtract 3.5 from both sides. These cancel out, and now I'm just left with y equals 12.75 minus 3.5 is 9.25. Now we're on workbook page 530. So we're going to use inverse operations for these equations, and inverse operations really help when you get to more difficult equations that you can't really solve mentally. So let's start with number 7. So again, I'm going to separate my two sides of the equation. I want to solve for a, so I want to undo this adding 1/10, and that would be to subtract 1/10 from both sides. These cancel out. I'm left with a equals 5/10 minus 1/10 is 4/10. But I don't want to leave my answer like that. I want to simplify. So we could divide both of these by 2, and we would get a equals 2/5. Let's try one more. We'll do number 10. Split up my equation. I want to undo adding 1/4, so I'm going to subtract 1/4 from both sides. These cancel out. Now I'm left with y equals, so we have to do 7/8. That's what was already there. So 7/8 minus 1/4. We need to find a common denominator. So 7/8 minus, we can multiply this by 2. That's 2/8. 7/8 minus 2/8 is 5/8. So y equals 5/8. Okay, so now we're jumping ahead to page 536, and now we're going to solve some subtraction equations. So the same steps as the addition equations, but now this is a -7, so the inverse of that would be to add 7 on both sides. So just carefully check. So we bring down the x, carefully check what operation is happening and what you need to do as the inverse. So if it's addition, you need to subtract. If it's subtraction, you need to add. So 7 plus 4, that gives us 11. So x equals 11. Again, for letter B, because 6 is being subtracted, we need to do the opposite and we need to add. So those cancel out and we're left with y equals 14. Letter C, 5 is being subtracted, so in this case we have to add. We're left with a equals 9 plus 5 is 14. So a equals 14. Okay, last few problems. We're now on page 539. So same thing, we're gonna solve 10 through 12. So these are just like the ones we did before, but with fractions. So again, we wanna solve for m. So we have to isolate the variable, get it by itself. So I need to undo this minus 1/3. And to do that, I need to add 1/3 to both sides. That'll cancel these out because they are inverse operations. So we're left with m equals 2/3 plus 1/3 is 3/3, and 3/3 is just 1 whole. So m equals 1. Number 11, we want to get n by itself, so I'm going to do the inverse of subtracting 1/4. I'm going to add 1/4. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Because these are inverse operations of each other, they cancel out. So we're left with n equals, this is like the last one, 3/4 plus 1/4 is 4/4, which is 1. Lastly, solve for s. So we have to do the inverse of subtracting 1/3 and add 1/3 to both sides. So we're left with s equals, we need a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply by 3. That's 7/9 plus 3/9. That equals 10/9, which equals 1 and 1/9. So s equals 1 and 1/9. Also, you can always check your answer by taking your answer and plugging it in to the original problem where the variable is and solving this side and making sure that it equals to this side. So you can always check your work when solving equations.